Ladies and gentlemen, let's move along. Like myself, my first guest hosts a late-night talk show, but unlike me, he has to get up bright and early Monday morning. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome David Letterman. Even Howard stood.
Boy, oh boy! I gotta tell you, this is very nice. What do you want for the place?
Let's see. Oh man!
I'm telling you something. As nervous and concerned and anxiety-ridden as you may be,
yes, sir.
This is more pressure than I've endured recently in my adult life. If I screw this up, this is your last show, and this is all you'll think about until you work again.
See you in '98, I would guess.
No. On the other hand, of course, I'll be over it by Sunday.
Oh, It is a pleasure to see you. Thank you so much for coming by and joining us on the show.
I can't thank you enough for inviting me, because I know what this is. I've been through this myself, and I appreciate the invitation, and I'm happy in some small way to lend my presence to the celebration.
Well, I'll tell you how you can help here. I know, let's say you decided to stop doing your show. I know there's plenty you'd miss about doing the show. I need to hear the negatives, though. I need to hear you say what you wouldn't miss at all, what you wouldn't care to ever see again about doing your show, so I have something to think about.
What have you heard about me stopping the show?
Oh, nothing.
Oh.
It's nothing. It's just my uncle, Mr. Tish, and I were having breakfast.
Yeah, no. Casting. Well, you know what it is. You know this, and people who have great, satisfying, rewarding jobs know this. Sometimes what you love the most also provides you with the most pain. And I got to tell you, just here recently, I'm kind of getting tired of reading about myself in the paper.
No.
Yeah, just a little bit. And I was thinking about it when you invited me over here, and you've been pretty fortunate because people like you, they like the show, and so you get to read a lot of nice things. Years and years ago, there still is a guy named James Walcott who at the time wrote for, I think, New York Magazine. And he's a great writer and very entertaining, and I always enjoyed this guy's work. But for some reason, well, not for some reason, because he enjoys doing it, he would just beat the hell out of me every 2 or 3 years. Just boom! Just poof me. And so one day the New York Magazine comes, and I'm looking through it, and there's a review of the old show he did at NBC. And I'm telling you, it just went on and on. He's ugly, he stinks, he has no talent, his clothes suck. Boom, 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 boom. It's one of those things where you lay it on the desk and just kind of dance around it. You read a paragraph and whoo, go to a neutral corner.
Yeah, come out, slam it again. Sure.
So I'm reading this, and I'm thinking, in the back of your mind, you're always looking for ways to kind of excuse yourself from the problem and the pain that you're going to endure.
Sure.
And so you always think to yourself, all right, it's awful, it's horrible, he hates me, but the good news is, in a week, it'll be off the stands. And that's how you get through that.
Sure.
So I close the magazine. Right across the cover there's a big slash banner headline, and it says, 100-year Brooklyn Bridge Anniversary Souvenir Edition. Save it. Show it to your grandkids. Share it with
Make wallpaper out of it.
And then there was my favorite review of the show, of all of the shows I've ever done. I don't even know the publication. Big headlines, huge review of the show, and it says, "The David Letterman Show is like garbage. ... It stinks!" Not that it's fly larva infested, not that it's runny and wet. No, it's like garbage in that it stinks. Couldn't be enough that it's just like garbage. They have to supply the missing element.
It hurts, doesn't it?
And the other thing, if I was to walk away, that I would not miss, and maybe you go through this at our show every night right after the show, You know how it is. The audience comes up to the offices and uses the bathroom. I
Sure.
hate that. I'm so
terrible
tired
thing.
of that. I wish they would go home or something.
No, that's why we don't have one here. We just can't use it that way. But it must be difficult to read about that, because someone had told me, I had heard that you had something to do with the Oscars. I didn't.
Hey, don't
I didn't
screw
read
with me,
anything.
all right, pal?
I would never. But again, those are the difficult experiences. I don't mind the reviews because I never learned how to read. But for me, like the Oscars, what was that experience like to go through it and to be that focused by the world?
Well, you know what it was. I went out there, and we did the show. I did the show, and you're done with it, and you think, yeah, I'm done with it.
Right.
And then you come home and you start reading about it, and you realize, oh my God, I've screwed up the Academy Awards. And my first reaction was guilt and remorse, and I thought, you know, if they wanted, they could arrest me. I screwed up the Academy Awards.
Is that a violation
They
now?
could arrest me. And so it took a couple of days, and then I thought, all right, I screwed up the Academy Awards. I don't care.
Huh?
And now I screwed up the Academy Awards, and I couldn't be more proud. Thank you very much.
Well, congratulations to you.
Yes, I've come a long way.
A man who speaks out. We've got to take a commercial break. We're coming back with more David Letterman right after this. Please. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Dave Letterman. Exciting news. I'm his new sidekick.
Yes.
Hey, everybody.
Let me just say one thing. You're a smart man. You understand that the people who watch this show are smart. The folks here in the studio audience are, well... Cancellation, and I'm going to tell you something you know. Cancellation should not be confused with failure.
Really?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. My father said almost the same thing, but in reverse. What was, for you, what do you think, other than Drew Barrymore, obviously, taking off her sweater, what's been the coolest thing that's happened to you while you've done your show?
You know, you think being in show business, or as close to it as I've come, you ought to have a lot of cool things happening. And,
Sure.
and I thought about this, and currently I've distilled it now down to the persona of Paul Newman. I have been lucky enough to meet Paul Newman. And I just want to tell you, this guy is the real deal.
Really?
He is solid gold. He's a great actor. He's a wonderful guy, and just an interesting fellow. I met him, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. Some friends introduced me. It was at a race in Phoenix. It was Bobby Ray Hall, who was a race driver,
Sure.
and his wife Debbie, and now, of course, I sound like Dick Cavett. And Gregory Peck was there as well, and Jamie Stewart, and
Groucho
we went on
and all the rest.
Yes,
Sure.
sir, yeah. And so they introduced me to Paul Newman, and you're carrying on a conversation. How do you do? I enjoy your popcorn, and God, we like cool hand. Look, that's what you're saying. That's what you're saying to Paul Newman.
Right.
In your head, all you can hear is this huge voice screaming, "Oh my God, it's Paul Newman! Oh my God, it's Paul Newman!" So I've been lucky enough to kind of have, I guess it's a friendship. I won't say we're really good friends, but we have kind of a relationship. And he's called me from time to time. About 6 months ago, and this is where it starts to get cool.
All right.
Paul Newman calls up and he says, Dave, he says, I'm thinking about getting me a Volvo station wagon, and I'm going to stuff a Ford 302 V8 engine into it.
Sure.
This engine's about the size of a small piano, so we're going to have to push back the firewall. Do you want one? So, you know, I'm thinking Volvo station wagon, it looks like something you'd make in metal shop. And if you want something really sporty, get a bakery truck. And every time you see a Volvo station wagon, in the back, it's 3 kids getting car sick on a golden retriever. And I'm thinking, these cars are so safe because in traffic, other motorists slow down to check out how ugly they are. But
Right. The tank.
and so intellectually, I don't want a Volvo station wagon. But of course, internally, it's Paul Newman. I say, yes, I'd like. Paul,
Bring it on.
let me have that Volvo station wagon.
Sure.
So,
Take 2.
you know, I'm aware of the fact in talking to Paul, he's far more excited about this than I am. He calls up from time to time and he says, have you picked out the interior yet? And I said, no, I haven't. He said, well, you better hurry, the dollar's falling. And I don't know what that means. It's, I guess, this.
No,
Swedish,
he's very concerned about the world economics.
And then he calls up after that and he says, "Good news, Pirelli's going to give us free tires." Wow, that's great, Paul! It's Paul Newman. We're getting free tires. So he calls 2 weeks ago, and he says, "Dave, the cars are ready. We got two. One for me, one for you." He says, "Everything is ready to go. I got to ask you a question. Do you want a puffer on yours?" And I'm thinking, well, is it like a special inflatable seat? I don't know, like sails on this Volvo? And I said, "Well, Paul, are you getting a puffer on yours?" And Paul says, yeah, I'm getting a puffer on mine. And I said, I have no idea. And he says, "It's a supercharger."
Ah.
I said, "A supercharger." And he says, "Now you have to be very, very careful because with this supercharger, this thing will turn about 400 horsepower. So if you pop the clutch, you're going to tear up the rear end." By comparison, a stock showroom Corvette, 300 horsepower.
Ouch.
I say to Paul, "Now wait a minute, Paul, I have a Volvo station wagon, 400 horsepower?" And he says, oh yeah. He says, "Oh yeah." He says, "From 20 to 100, you can chew anybody's ass." And I'm thinking to myself, what circumstance would Paul find himself in driving around in a Volvo station wagon where he feels like he's got to chew somebody's ass?
I don't know. Wow. I'll tell you. I can see that very nice, though. The main thing there.
400 horsepower Volvo station wagon.
But when Paul Newman offers you a puffer, I mean, you take it. You don't turn down Paul Newman.
You'd be a fool to pass on the puffer.
On a puffer. It's been such a pleasure just sitting here listening to you talk, and I just want to tell you how much I admire your show now and the morning show that you did and everything else you've done. The morning show especially was always, when I was in college watching it, was one of the greatest things
Oh, knock off the bull.
All right. Look, if I'm going to be sliding you my resume, I got to butter you up.
You mentioned the morning show, and earlier tonight on our show. Today, coincidentally, in an odd way, 15 years ago, June 23rd, 1980, was the first day of my morning show at NBC. Wow. And it did not last as long as your show here has lasted.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
And on tonight's show, we showed some videotape of the very first show. And when I heard that I was going to be on the program, I wondered if in some way it might be of use to you to show you, since this is your last show,
Absolutely.
some videotape of my last morning show. I'm not necessarily proud of this.
No?
I have not seen it. I cannot look at it. It troubles me to watch.
We can turn that around.
It has never been seen, to my knowledge, since its original airing late in the summer of 1980. So just take a look at this, and I'm not saying it's great. I'm not saying I'm happy about it. I'm just saying I lived through it.
All right, here we go. Let's take a look. The morning show, ladies and gentlemen.
Monday, there's going to be a show here called, it's called Las Vegas Gambit, and you're going to be hearing a lot of these things. Now here to sing a visual tribute to that show, Harv Mann, ladies and gentlemen, and our salute to Las Vegas Gambit.
It's the Las Vegas Gambit Show. The Las Vegas Gambit Show. Oh, with cash and fabulous prizes on NBC.
I think that is very moving.
I think I might have had a puffer on my hair. Anyway, I lived through it. I've done pretty well since, and I know the same is in store for you.
Well, I really appreciate it, and I appreciate you coming by.
Thank
it
you,
means
John.
so much to us.
Thank you very
so
much.
for
I
being
enjoyed
here.
myself.
Ladies and gentlemen, David Letterman. Coming up, Talk Show John, Kevin Meaney, Buffalo Tom, and we'll see you in a little bit.